Leo's insights are presented to challenge, inform, and encourage you in your quest to break free from school-based approaches to education. Building upon a foundation of unschooling, we sincerely hope these insights help you to consider how education can be truly unlimited.
I've made up my mind. Don't confuse me with the facts. First time I heard that, I thought it was really funny. I saw it as a joke. Surely nobody would be that narrow minded. Weren't facts and debating and logic necessary for learning? Who could possibly be so enlightened that facts were no longer needed or were confusing? I grew up in another age, not like the one we live in today. Maybe that is why I think confusing facts is funny. Back then, a common admonition was that one should avoid discussing things like religion and politics, so to reduce the possibility of disagreement. As hard as I tried to avoid those topics, my rebellious nature insisted that I bring them up, if for no other reason to spice up the conversation. But doing so eventually led me to discover my own faith and to clarify my political leanings. That was then. Today, that old saying has taken on a bit more of a religious mantra. Indeed, mine seem to be firmly made up nowadays. In fact, so made up that there is very little that can be said to change them. Certainly not facts. Know-it-alls usually do not do well with facts since their minds are already made up. The usual response to being presented or challenged with facts is one of dismay or confusion. And the reaction is often name-calling since they don't have any facts of their own to draw upon respecting their made-up minds. The question is not why these people are not open to being challenged, but how their minds were made up in the first place. But perhaps an even greater question would be, who helped make that mind up and what was the motivation for doing so? Back in my day, now I'm really starting to sound old, we used the term made up synonymously with the word fiction, as in not true or as an indicator of illusion rather than reality. Perhaps that is why I was so entertained with my mind is made up. Don't confuse me with the facts. I figured that any mind that was made up, atrophied, cemented, was likely believing lies, fiction, that likely needed to be corrected with, well, facts. Could it be that the modern made-up mind, the kind that cannot abide facing facts, was indeed made up or constructed to be just that way? A mind made up so tightly that lies are actually true will never be open to any opposing view. People trapped in this made-up mind mode will simply make up the facts needed to support their made-up position. Science, for instance, is often stated as supporting their position, but this is more an abuse of a term than a reference to any critical study. On that note, another old saying comes to mind. If you cannot dazzle someone with your brilliance, you can always baffle them with your empty words. Actually, we may need to rephrase that old adage to modernize it in order to make sense today. How about, my mind is fixated on my being right in whatever I believe is factual. There is no possibility of my being in error since everything I was taught was presented as being unquestioningly true, and I believe it. Please don't challenge my intellectual divinity in these matters with things you erroneously think will cause me to change my mind. You want to see how made-up minds are created? Look no further than mandatory government schools. While claiming to be teaching critical thinking skills, very little thinking is actually taking place. It seems far more emphasis is placed on what to think than how to think. During my classroom teaching days, I would challenge students with the statement, think, or someone else will do the thinking for you. Even back then, the teaching of critical skills was not a priority in schools, and my approach was considered novel by my colleagues. Surely things have not likely improved, as there are many new progressive causes and or politically correct ideologies to impose upon young minds. That is why we want to avoid sending our children to school. Furthermore, that is why we want to avoid doing school at home. Help your children to analyze facts and to use this information to make up their own minds in the form of changeable opinions. Help develop critical thinking minds that hunger for truth and are willing to admit error. If you do that, don't confuse me with the facts will remain a joke.
We trust you were blessed by today's presentation. For more helpful information to guide you in your home education journey, please visit educationunlimited.ca and leogaumont.com. Be sure to like us and share us on Facebook.